I'm here.
You are here, and so is Theo. Hello, welcome back. Great to have you.
Hi, Theo.
Amazing. Theo, you're over in Vancouver.
Yeah, it's me, Pierre.
Jer.
No, Pierre. I was
How come it's under Theo? Oh, is that you're just using
on my phone now? Yeah, I guess alias.
Pierre. Okay, got it. Because I was just like, I thought it was a different. Okay, Pierre and Theo is wonderful. Okay, amazing. I love both names. How are you?
Pretty good.
What did you think of the call?
The call was intense too. I know I have 4 Zoom meetings today, and that was my second, but my brain has reached intellectual capacity right now.
And you're in the human aura.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm caught up, I think, at least the first few chapters.
Amazing.
I actually joined, I saw this available when I went to your first meeting, and then, I was like, oh, I have a teacher. He's who taught esoteric acupuncture to me.
Okay.
And so his first acknowledgements were Kuthumi and Joel Kul, right? So I'm like, oh, something's calling me. I gotta read this book.
Amazing. Well, Pierre, I'm so glad that you found us. And Francoise and I are part of the group that actually created the website that has the whole series, the 4 pillars. So basically there's 4 pillars to the teachings of the Ascended Masters. The first pillar is the Human Aura by Kuthumi. And then you have the second book, which I don't conveniently have next to me yet again, but it is Saint Germain on alchemy as books 2 and 3 for the pillars, the next second and third pillar. And then the 4th is actually DJ Cool's version of the advanced studies of the human aura. So those are the 4 studies, and they're in 2 books, which is more convenient. And then we've also actually put it onto the website. So Francoise, if you want to speak into your experience with the human aura, because Francoise is actually one of our Quebecois counterparts. And so she does a lot of translating and may actually run the human aura in French after this is done. And then that could even be a way that we almost do like French training and English training and translating and actually feed people with important stuff. Like I used to teach English to kids in China, and I would be teaching them insignificant things. Like, how does this relate, right? And then you go to school and it's like, well, how does this relate? And then I heard that like in elementary school and public education systems, like little children are taught to count apples and oranges and pears and bananas. Well, in Ivy League private schools, little children are taught to count businesses. They're taught to count employees. They're taught to count things that are seen as superior, right? And it's just like, while I'm not promoting that, there is an element of needing to increase our self-worth that all of this is connected to, because even in the teachings of the Ascended Masters, like with it being a keeper of the flame, you have to have the self-worth to actually do that and to actually transmute enough of your karma to be able to find the teachings, to be able to say yes to it. Like you have to transmute 51% of your karma to make your ascension in this lifetime. You have to transmute 25% of your karma to even find the teachings of the Ascended Masters in this lifetime. Right, Francoise?
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's on that.
Would you like to contribute anything now that I kind of set the stage a little bit?
Well, I think you have your ID already developed. Maybe you could just continue a little bit, and I see if something is popping up for me on what you're saying, then I'll just add to it. Okay?
Perfect. Yes. So generally speaking, what we do, Pierre, is, well, what we did last week, and I'm actually changing it from last week because I had read this through earlier in the year because I knew that it was necessary. And so basically, before I go there, let me just show you where I'm at. So then you can actually do this yourself, because this is the website. So I'll actually read out the 2 chapters for tonight, which is the 3rd and 4th chapters. Did you come with any questions in mind, since you said you did some advanced reading?
Took some notes, but they're not really questions. Maybe, actually, I think this is still in page 24 of the book, when he says the 90 and 9 must be forsaken, for they already possess the strength within themselves to perceive this truth. Do you remember that line?
Which page?
24.
Which book? Which version?
Yeah.
It's on your computer. Okay.
From the computer. Perfect. Oh, good. I'm going to go find that then. Did you actually use the website?
No.
Oh, okay. Francoise, what do you know about the 90 and 9?
90 and 9. The number, is it the number in 909?
The 90
Actually,
and 9.
I maybe I should provide more context. I found it in the page, and yeah, actually there's a footnote that I know I should have checked before maybe asking bringing this up. So maybe I'll check the footnote and bring it up again after.
That's perfect. Because repetition is what the Greek said is the key to learning. And so the more times you can go over it, the better. Like I said, I was going to originally play back what I had already recorded last time. But what I would prefer to do is actually take you to the website, which is the 4pillars.higherconsciousness.ca. And so here is where it actually introduces the 4 pillars that I mentioned. The first pillar, studies of the human aura, and the 4th pillar, intermediate studies of the human aura, are both actually in this book, which we're going to focus on tonight. Saint Germain on Alchemy. These are the old versions of the covers, but they're also in one shared copy, which would be under pillar 2, and that would be the version that you would be looking at. Phenomenal book, and multiple parts to it. So this is the French version as well. So as we go through the English studies of the human aura, then we may go into the French studies, and then as we do the Saint Germain on Alchemy in English, that may be a possibility. We haven't even talked about that, so I don't want Francois feeling like a deer in headlights, as if there's more expected of her, because she does a tremendous amount of translating. There's actually, are you familiar with the teachings of the Ascended Masters, Pierre?
Familiar? No, not so much.
Okay. That is perfect. The teachings, I was introduced to them last year, and basically this is a mystery school with Summit Lighthouse. So there's Summit Lighthouse, Summit University, and then what else is, there's 3 divisions of it, Francoise, but do you know?
3 division of
the Summit Lighthouse, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what is the source of this. There's, I would say, there's 3 aspects instead of division.
Oh, fair. Okay.
Right. There is the studying of the books. There is a part of people who would like to become members. So if they want to become members, then they can become keepers of the flame. And those who would like to go further in their studies and I would say explore the spirituality in contacting more the masters, then they can become communicant of what we call the part of our church, universal and triumphant. But for the studying of the 4 pillars, I would say you are a friend. a friend and you want to know about these teaching because you can apply them in your life and it becomes something that is practical, spiritual. We call that practical spirituality. So that's why we start with these 4 books, but there's so many others interesting books. So I would say that is 3 different aspects of our movement.
And how long have you been acquainted with the teachings of the Ascended Masters, Francoise?
Oh, it's more than 30 years.
So it's a huge wealth of information. And so something that I just want to actually say as well as we kind of flip back to pillar 1, which is where we're going to be starting. So we're going to read chapters 3 and 4 from this one, or I'm going to read it live. So I'm just going to make a new version, and Pierre and Francoise are going to be in view for those who listen to the review. And basically, I lost my train of thought. I wanted to just say, I am not the one that is here to have taught this lesson. I am here to really just offer the platform, just like the meeting that was just held before this. I am just learning. This is my 2nd time through this book. So I am offering this opportunity, not because I am an expert, but because I am a student alongside of you, as is Francoise, of the teachings of the Ascended Masters, higher level insights and wisdom for 30 plus years. And you've been studying whatever you've been called to feed your soul. And all of it is beautiful so long as we understand how to discern truth. And truth has an energetic resonance. And if we actually understand energetic resonance and we understand our own energetic field, then we can really start experiencing shifts and transformations that will blow our minds, because it'll drop us into our heart where our magnetic field is, and that's where everything shifts, including the collective consciousness, which just needs to reach the tipping point where a certain amount of the population get it, and then everybody gets it. It's like the 100th monkey effect, where you've heard about the sweet potatoes that were dropped onto the beach, and the monkeys would always go and eat the sweet potatoes off the beach and they'd get sand in their teeth. But one day one of the sweet potatoes rolled into the water, and so somebody chased after it and then rinsed off the water and then ate the sweet potato and found it tasted better. So it told all its monkey friends, who told their monkey friends, who told their monkey friends, and so on. And then suddenly, when the 100th monkey was informed about washing your sweet potatoes makes them taste better, all monkeys everywhere suddenly knew to wash their sweet potatoes. It's collective consciousness. It's about resonance. It's the field. It's the etheric body is kind of what I'm coming to understand in a class that Francoise and I have actually been in for 9 weeks on the quest, the spiritual quest, so we're both being students and also teaching / offering the space for the questions to unfold, because as Socrates says, it is the quality of our questions that directly determine the quality of life experience we're able to have. Oh, wouldn't you think?
Okay,
Yeah.
Let me just say something. It's not because I'm studying and I'm trying to practice these teaching for more than 30 years that I know more. I know a lot. I don't know everything. So I can share with you what I know. So what you are doing, the master would say, you are giving us an opportunity to meet and to share what we know, because Pierre knows something. And so we are going to share about this studies of the human aura for a different point of view. But this is an opportunity. The master called that an opportunity. So each one of us has a role to play here.
Indeed, we do.
Okay.
With all of that said, right before I jump into actually reading, because I do have a hard stop at 9 o'clock, given I am leading the album 22 launch party number 2. So that's super exciting. Check out album22thenumber.com as the website where you can gain access to 22 songs from conscious creators who have contributed to a project designed to uplift humanity, with an extra E for the common hues of all of us, inclusive of, regardless. And so all of that, Francoise, you're going to say?
No, I was just going to say that I was a bit mixed up. So I read again chapter 1 and 2, and I didn't thought that tonight would be chapter 3 and 4. So go ahead with your reading.
Oh, and so Francoise was very generous in offering to create a summary of the main points in the chapters we already did last week. So she doesn't have those for this week. And therefore, that is still something that we can do together, is I think what could be a really great way for us to really mine the nuggets from this text to the level that we can together. And the other thing is that Michael Seegers actually introduced, well, he was one of my early mentors into the teachings. But he talks about the Fohatic keys, which are codes of light that are included into the insights that are shared. And so he actually says that we're to make the prayer call or the pearl call before and after doing readings of chapters that will actually help us be able to assimilate the information at a deeper level. So we're not going to do that because I don't have it all set up, and I don't know comfort levels for people to do that, just because I feel like there needs to be maybe a conversation to be had before that. I don't know your comfort level with that, and whether you wanted to have that conversation now or whether you wanted to just kind of jump into the reading. What would you prefer?
Me?
Pierre, yeah.
I'm open to anything, and I just wanted to follow along with your version. So can I get that website again? 4 Pillars.
Yeah, I'm going to actually read directly from it, so you're going to be able to see it on the screen. It's 4pillars.higherconsciousness.com.
And because
so as I said, anything you wanna do with the keys and or
Oh, okay. The Fohatic keys. Yes. I don't know enough about the Fohatic keys to speak into those with any kind of authority or depth, but Michael Seegers can, and he's offered the prayer call, which I want him to do a refresher as to why and which one to do. You're going to say, Francoise?
I'm not sure if I think I might have it, but let's say for the time we have left, you could just start reading the 2 chapters.
Yeah.
And while I'm listening, I will try to see if I have the prayer, and then maybe I could, if you don't have it, I could, if I have it in English, I have it in French, but you need it in English. So I would send it to you this week, and we'll see. We'll talk about it, let's say, for next week.
No problem.
Okay. So because time is running and Pierre is here to have the chapter 3 and 4.
Indeed, he is. So I'm going to go live over on Facebook. And so we're going to get to stream this with those who would hunger for this information. And I share what I wish I had access to sooner, simply because it's added value to me. And so I want to make sure that I make it available to others too, because I think that that's the blessing about life. So I'm going to start up the screen share. We have just went live over on Facebook, so that's good. And we're going back. 4pillars.higherconsciousness.ca is the website. And then each of the pillars have their own page. And this is what the book actually looks like. So we're going to start with colorations of the aura this evening, and then we're going to read the reading of the aura as well. Sit back, relax, drink some tea, coffee, whatever it is you brought with thee. If you don't mind muting yourselves, just to make sure this is in clear and clean audio for those who listen back, that's appreciated. Thank you. The human aura, the colorations of the aura. The reality of your God perfection, latent in all life, is continually releasing the current of its magnificence into your consciousness. Whenever an impediment blocks the flow of this magnificent God energy, it is as though an object has opaqued the light of the sun. As the sun has its corona, so there is always a spillover of the delightful radiance of the vital life forces in man, which are so easily subjected to his negative influences and misuse. This discolors the aura with negative vibrations and leads man to draw the conclusion that he is less than the perfection of God. Just as men recall on a cloudy day that the radiance of the sun is behind the clouds and can be seen from an aircraft which penetrates the clouds, so man should also begin to develop and maintain the habit of constantly telling himself that the blazing, dazzling reality of the fullness of God is being released to him moment by moment as the master plan of eternal purpose. Thus, he should develop the habit of counteracting all examples of shadow and misqualification by applying this principle of internal reality. What is real? What is real is released to man as he practices the ritual of penetration, of penetrating the light of the Son of God by the very power of the light that is within him, and thereby more and more of the divine radiance can infuse the aura in its manifest pattern. Therefore, today, the delight of the law of God will be in the mouth of the man or woman who will speak the living word, invoking from the heart of God that magnificence which he already is, claiming in the word, I am the fullness of the Godhead bodily in himself, as a joint heir with the universal Christ consciousness. Now, in the matter of the effects of one's thoughts and feelings upon the human aura, we shall briefly touch upon the subject of coloration. As the intensity of the white and the violet light is increased in the aura, especially those shades that are pale and ethereal, one notes the enlarging of man's perceptions and an increase in spirituality. As the pale yellow, almost golden light floods through the mind, the very fingers of cosmic intelligence manifest as interconnecting light rays, enabling the mind of man to contact the universal mind of God. By amplifying in the aura the beauty of pastel pink, vibrating fire of the cup of universal love, man is able to spill over into the world the very thoughts of divine love. As so many know, the color of violet, vibrating at the top of the spectrum, is transmutative and buoyant. Born to the purple, the man who so infuses his aura is cloaked in the invincibility of the King of Kings. This royal color is the cosmic fire of the Holy Spirit, which, when blended with the azure blue of the will of God, manifests as divine love in action in that holy will. The green light, eternally new with abundance, charges the aura of man with the power of universal healing and supply. To seal all in the will of God is to drink from the goblet of that holy will. In the electric blue of the ascended masters, it denotes both purity and power. Now, not all of mankind see the aura, and for some it is perhaps a misstatement to say that they do. What happens in most cases is a sensing by the inner being of the reader of the auric emanations of others, and the interpolation thereof by the mind through the organ of vision. The impressions of the impinging aura carried over the nerve pathway as a result of the extension of the reader's consciousness into the domain of the magnetic emanation seem themselves to be seen, when in reality they are only felt. Vibrations of anger often register as crimson flashes, just as black is seen in the aura as the opaquing by negative thoughts and feelings of the otherwise natural release of the light of the presence through the being of man. Remember, beloved ones, that the tone of the divine aura is an extension of God, just as the mode of thinking and feeling is the extension of the human consciousness. The interference with the aura in its natural, pure state by the mortal consciousness and its misqualification of light create the negative colorations that are both seen and felt by the more sensitive among mankind. The muddying of the pure colors of the aura occurs whenever there is a mingling of the emanations of imperfect thoughts and feelings with the pure colors released through the prism of the Christ. This marked change in color and vibration is obvious to the trained eye. In this connection, may I say that one can learn to discern the thoughts and feelings of mortal men and to perceive what is acting in their worlds? The difference between momentary passions, consciously willed, and sustained, deep seated emotional trends must be considered. How easy it is to see through the process of auric discernment that which is not immaculate in someone's feelings, thoughts, or acts without understanding that only a temporary surface disturbance may have taken place. Much later, if that one is not careful to override such disturbances by retraining the mind and feelings and consciously governing the energy flow, an in-depth penetration may occur, whereby auric contamination will reach subconscious levels and thus prolong the time span of man's indulgence in negative states. Great care should be exercised by all who desire to amplify the immaculate God concept of others, to see that they do not, by their incomplete perceptions, actually intensify those negative conditions which those whom they would assist may not be harboring at all, but are only entertaining momentarily. Then, too, there is the matter of the projection of mass force fields of negatively qualified energy, which can become a patine or layer of substance overlaid upon the natural vibration of individuals. Although totally foreign to their force field, this overlay of darkness, if seen at an inopportune moment, may be diagnosed by the careless or untrained observer as an outcropping of the bedrock of his identity. Always remember, dear hearts, that those who fall in the swamp may come up covered with mud, for the quicksands of life, by their very nature, always seek to drag man down. But man can and does escape these conditions, overcoming through the same glorious victory that brings forth the lotus in the swamplands of life. I want you to understand then that by a simple act of invoking the light of the Christ consciousness, man can overcome the ugly chartreuse green of jealousy and resentment, the muddied yellow of selfish intellectualism, the crimson reds of passion, and even the almost violet black of attempts of self-righteous justification. To see others clearly, beloved hearts, remember that man must first perceive in himself the beautiful crystal of cosmic purity. Then, casting the beam out of his own eye, he can see clearly to take the mote out of his brother's eye. By the purification of your perceptions, you will be able to enjoy the entire process of beholding the Christ in self and others, as one by one the little disturbances of the aura are cleaned up through the natural manifestation of the childlike beauty of cosmic innocence. What is innocence but the inner sense? And the poem of victory that God writes through man is already there in matrix and in creative form, waiting to be delivered upon the pages of life. Human density may have interfered with the manifestation of the Christ in man, but the light and love of the law will produce for him the greatest purification, making possible the penetration of the aura by the beautiful colors of the Christ consciousness. I should like our students throughout the world to join with me in a determined effort to let the crystal clear grace of the throne that is within you as the threefold flame, 3 in 1, hence throne, ray out into your world such ecstatic, electrical, cosmic energy that you will literally vaporize the darkened elements of your own aura and hence develop that magnificent seeing that will bring the joy of the angels and the light of God to all whom you meet. Perhaps you shall become more technical, but I think in no way can we become more practical than we have in that which I have already spoken. Will you follow the Christ of your being in this regeneration? So that was chapter 3, yo. Just kidding. Would you like to carry on and read chapter 4 as well, or would you like to unpack any of what stood out for you? Oh, Francoise, you're muted, as are you, Pierre.
Pierre is not sure if you are addressing to him.
Either of you. I was curious as to preference. This is new and it's a pilot study. And so I just really want to kind of get a feel for what's the best experience for you who are in view, because obviously you are who it matters to me that you have a good experience from most, not because you who are watching us have this experience don't matter, but simply because they got themselves in the room and I want to honor them for that. So, Pierre?
I could go either way. I remember taking a note of what is inner sense, but inner sense, or what is innocence but inner sense, and the 3-in-1 turning into throne. That's the first time I encountered that, so that's definitely something I'm going to use in the future.
The master have such a clear mind of what is the pure reality in which we have all been created in God. So they are giving us all these little thing like that with the word innocence and inner sense. And this is one of the most, I would say, marvelous aspect of reading the teaching of the Ascended Masters, because they are giving us, I would say, what is the highest, what is the clearest that we can understand at our level. Yeah.
I love it.
I have another point, something that it seems that I've come into contact with several people who, you know, can see energy at a different level and see colors at a different level. Is, in your experiences, this how it's described here, where violet means this and a muddied violet means this, is how definitive is that in your own experiences, and how can you reconcile that with conflicts where other people see different in color and interpretations of energy?
Great question.
What I know is that a lot of people can see colors in the aura, but you know, to see the reality of the soul and what the soul is emanating, it's different than many people. What they are seeing with their own imperfection. So they don't see the right color. They see colors that are at their own vibration. So many people would say, oh, she has a lot of beautiful orange and red and things like that. It could be true. But most of the time, those who are seeing have not themselves make their correction and purify their own aura. So they are seeing through their own imperfection and interpretation. So it can be different from one person to another, depending to, so it's not everybody who has, I would say, elevated consciousness to see the reality. So it depends on everyone and their level of evolution, I would say, in their consciousness.
It's the spiral staircase, is the awareness where you're basically traveling up a staircase that seems to be in the same spot, but it's a completely different experience based on whether you're in the ground floor or the penthouse, which is the high rise of emotional awareness theory that I came up with based on Esther Hicks's emotional guidance system, where she takes 22 different emotions and then puts those into positive or negative cycles or spectrums, vortexes. And then basically, these are what I have come to understand to be the equivalent of the causal body when you have contentment upwards, which are actually states of being, not states of emotion. You can't emote joy or contentment or peace, for instance. It's just like you can't bottle that, or it would have been, that's a hot commodity. But boredom downwards, devil's playground is idle hands, right? And idle hands are a devil's playground. That's because boredom downward to depression, each of those emotions has a density that takes you lower and lower and lower and lower. And what we have to understand is that one emotion leads to another if we are willing to actually ride the moment. But then also, we have to understand there are momentums that come with the emotion that was energy in motion that is basically showing up in the present triggered moment, but everything that was suppressed, repressed, depressed, denied, rejected, tried to pretend didn't exist, all of that shows up in that triggered moment because all of it's ready to go if we're willing to actually let it, which is part of where all of the question around colors ties in. I wanted to mention about the fact that in the second pillar, that book, Saint Germain on Alchemy, they actually talk about the chakras using different colors as when you have your chakras purified or refined compared to when they're impure. So whether that's the reason that we're all being taught based on a system that has impure colors as their alignment with the energy centers, that would make sense from a deceptive perspective. Just tell everybody the wrong colors and get them to resonate at the wrong level and get confused and then not know what to use, and then just give their get hopeless and then just fall down the spectrum of emotion, right? So that all, I wanted to also say, Marie Diamond has Diamond Feng Shui, which I think is brilliant. I came across it in high school. She appeared in The Secret, and she is Marie Diamond, who created Diamond Feng Shui. She uses colors in her Feng Shui. I have followed her work since I found a book of hers in high school, and I get a lot of value from the work that she shares. So I wanted to offer that to you. And I am aware of the time. It is ticking. I always think of the number 38 as the maternal, motherly number. My mom's favorite number is 38, so maybe that's part of it, but I don't know whether there's any truth to that. It's 38 equals a 1-1, which is new beginnings, so that's like motherhood. But I don't know whether there's anything else to an 11 or a 3-8. Do you know, Francoise?
No.
No, Pierre?
No.
Okay, maybe there's nothing. What were you going to say, Francoise?
No,
There's everything.
nothing. No. No
Okay.
comment.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's dig into the next chapter. And I hope that this is valuable and you're enjoying this. So definitely give it a like. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're not already, when this goes onto YouTube, I appreciate you. Did you know I am almost to 1,000 subscribers? I should get there any day now. Woo-hoo-hoo. Until I get deplatformed. But wouldn't that be just a bust? But maybe I won't get deplatformed, and that would be wonderful. So let's just keep aiming for freedom. Free speech. Yes. Okay. The human aura. Chapter 4, the reading of the aura. The trials of life that come to man are in reality his teachers. That is to say, they substitute for his teachers because he will not hear them. Yet it has been clearly recorded in the scriptures and ancient writings that the time would come when man should see his teachers, and that they should not be far removed from him. So many today are concerned with the facial expressions and appearances of the teachers without ever realizing the lines of character and soul reality that comprise the inner being of a man or woman. Let the true seekers be concerned then not so much with the outer beauty of appearances, but with the inner beauty that produces those manifestations in the human aura which bring the admiration of every ascended master because they are the fulfillment of the God design. If any of you have ever been judges in a contest of beauty, you will understand the difficulty in making a selection from among the manifold aspects of God's beauty. In the case of the ascended masters and karmic lords, it is sheer delight that motivates them to pronounce their seal of approval on all that is the God intent in those who aspire to represent the brotherhood and to glorify God in their body and in their spirit. What a marvelous sport of possibility exists for every man. I want our students to think of the richness of the natural, radiating, consecrating devotion that God has placed within man. The opportunity to express the perfection of the Holy Spirit, when rightly apprehended, enables man to fashion the wedding garment of his very Christed being. Now, I know that through the years, many of the students of the occult have stressed the ability of the advanced disciple to read the human aura, to interpret it, and in effect, to see it. May I say at this time, and quite frankly so, that no psychic ability or even the ability to read the human aura denotes in the person who does so that mastery by which the true adept overcomes outer conditions. I do not say that adepts do not have this ability. I simply say that the possessing of this ability in partial or even in total proficiency is not necessarily an indication of the advanced spiritual development of the individual. Also, it should be realized that those who profess to read the human aura may do so very poorly in a confused manner or in a very limited depth. In order to correctly interpret the reading of the human aura, one must be able to read the karmic record and to have some insight into the total being of a man. I would far prefer that the students would consider the benefit that can come to them through beholding good in themselves and in others, and through striving for the good, as my beloved cohort Elmoira has said. For the fruit of striving may not always be apparent on the surface, even on the surface of the aura, but it stands behind the real life record of man's attainment. This is why God has said, "Judge not, that ye be not judged." Here in Shagatsi, we concentrate on the sending forth of holy wisdom. We concentrate on harmony and on true loveliness. There are times, of course, when man must perceive that what is acting in his world is not of the Christ. It is then that he must be able to disentangle himself from his problems and to recognize that neither his problems nor the unwholesome conditions that surround him are the nature of God. Therefore, the Lord does not require him either to prolong his problems or to be weighted down by his environment. Might I add that by nurturing the divine nature, man finds that the aura will quite naturally resemble the presence in its radiant perfection. This is the pattern that appears in the heavens of God's consciousness, and that can appear in the heaven of every man's consciousness, for it flows out from the seed pattern of perfection within man, even as it manifests in the presence above. When Jesus said, "I and my Father are one," he referred to the balancing of the divine radiance of the God presence and causal body within the outer manifestation, which through his reunion with reality had become one with God. Hence, the color rays, which had been focused through the coat of the many colors, now became the nimbus, halo, or radiance of the Christ consciousness around him, the seamless garment that he wore as the Son of God. We have tried to make apparent in this discourse the fact that ordinary human beings are not endowed with this sense perception of the human aura, and this should always be borne in mind. Pilate heeded the dream of his wife, who warned him to have nothing to do with that just man, more than the testimony of virtue manifest in the one who stood before him. He could find no fault with Jesus Christ, but he did not bear witness to his perfection, else he would never have permitted the crucifixion of Christ, nor would he have turned him over to the Sanhedrin. How do you say that? Sanhedrin? Is it Sanhedrin or Sanhedrin? You're muted, Francoise. I'm just curious. I can't, you're muted, sorry.
I can say it in French, Sanhedrin, but in English, I don't know if you say Sanhedrin or
Drin.
Sanhedrin.
Yes, Drin would make sense. Okay, Sanhedrin. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Beauty, thank you.
Yeah.
It's so important. And if you don't ask, and last time I was on my own and I couldn't find out. So I just like to find out so that when we go through it again in future, then we're good. And this can be cut out so nobody knows except for those who were there live, which is why it is so important to get yourself in the rooms with iron sharpens iron. Get yourself in the room with ones that are doing things that other people maybe laugh at or joke about. And I know this is a total breakaway, except for it's not, because if you have ones that are throwing toxicity at you, they are muddying your aura. And you are either taking that on or you are saying, I'm going to put my energy into rooms and spaces that make me feel good. And I hope this one is one of those for you. So let's get back to it. The common sense approach to the realities of God is to be found in depth in the being of man. Man is a veritable treasure house of beauty and perfection when he returns to the divine image, and I know of no better way to produce the miracle of the star of divine radiance in the human aura than to become one with God. The seemingly impossible hurdle is the panacea man seeks, and he shall find it if he seeks diligently enough and does not fear to surrender his little self. For all human ills will be cured by virtue of his becoming the divine in manifestation. More harm has been done in the world by fraudulent readings of the human aura and false predictions based upon these readings than man is aware of. What a marvelous thing it will be when man turns his faculties of perception to the beholding of the reality of God in his very thought and standard. Now I must, in defense of some arhats and advanced adepts upon the planet, affirm the accuracy of those who are able instantly to detect in depth the vibratory patterns manifesting in the world of others. It is incorrect to suppose that these will always speak out concerning their discernments. Naturally, gentleness and the will to see perfection supplant darkness will guide their motives and acts. But I solemnly warn here that whenever you are in the presence of a true adept or even an unascended being who has mastered many elements of perfection in his life, you should understand that if there is darkness of motive within you, he may see it or he may choose to ignore it. By the same token, I solemnly warn those who fancy themselves adepts, but who in reality have not overcome more than an iota of their imperfections, and who have achieved in the eyes of God but a small portion of that which they imagine, to take heed that they do not incorrectly discern in their so-called readings of the lives of others some quality that may not even exist, for thereby some have brought great karma down upon their heads. All should exercise humility and care in placing their value upon the development in the soul of the higher consciousness of the God presence. For this is without money and without price. It is the invincible attainment by which men become truly one with God. Amen. Just kidding. But that was perfect. Thank you, guys. What do you feel about that chapter? Here, I hear you got unmuted first.
Oh, I was just gonna say amen with you.
Love it. Thank you.
Oh, how about can you come up with one example of how sorry.
Apologies required. Thank you for daring to try.
Okay, I lost it. It's something about like many problems have arisen from misreadings of the aura or something like that.
Oh, I'll actually speak into that just to start, because I actually got certified to be a soul realignment practitioner back in 2013. So that's accessing the Akashic records to understand who you are at soul level. And so I've done multiple programs over the years with that program. And then last year, when I came into the teachings of the Ascended Masters, what's interesting is that the Akashic Records is, if you're not familiar with the idea of it, it's essentially an energetic database that contain all the records of your soul throughout all timelines, past, present, future, all happening now in this present moment. So all of those choices that are being made now are stored in the ultimate library, essentially, where you have a book that we can pull out if attuned to access the records, to be able to find information about blocks or restrictions that are preventing you from being able to move forward in your life, or the same pattern keeps showing up because that's an energetic pattern you never dealt with, and so then you haven't cleared, therefore it's still in your field and you're bringing that with you, just like in the train station you got that baggage coming with you. So what's interesting is that I've had this training in this background because it resonated for me, and I found a space where I was able to expand to a level that I needed to be able to. And I was living in England when I first got trained, and then I brought that back with me, so it was still familiarity when I was going through a lot of personal transformation. And I say this because then when I came into the teachings of the masters through Michael, and because Michael has made himself available to answer questions that I've had along the way, because we created the Michael and Laura show, which, if you're not familiar, on my YouTube channel, there is a playlist called the Michael and Laura show, which has a tremendous amount of value, including the very first episode of my Peaceful Inner Warriors United podcast is with Michael, and it's called Spiritual Warfare and the Nature of Evil, because that is so important. And what is cool, which I don't know where in the teachings this came up, but evil is E-veil, for the energy veils that go over the truth, and that is what lies ultimately are. So that is a lot of rambling, and I'm not fully finished my point, but my mind has left that stream. So I'm being honest, and I'm checking in with you guys, and if it's meant to be, then we'll get to finish the thought, and if not, then we'll get to come back to a good one next time, because when I edit this, then I'll make sure to note it and make sure to bring it back. Francoise?
That's okay. So I think we are almost done for tonight. That's that's all the time we had, I think.
Yeah, so we are nearly done. Darn, if we're going to finish up early, then I would like to be able, what was I saying right before I went down a rabbit hole I got lost in? Do you know?
Honestly, I was trying to follow among all the things that you have done and tried and learned, and I was trying to see the link with this reading of the aura.
Thank you. So it was
so what you're saying on what you have learned is quite different than what Kuthumi is explaining here for me.
Yes, that's what I was going to share, and then I got sidetracked. Thank you for helping me get back on course. This is why groups are very powerful. We have each other to be able to redirect when we catch ourselves going down a pattern. Better not lose it this time. No, but so basically what I've learned is that when we go into the records and we open the book, which I was taught to be able to do, and I interestingly didn't actually do it on a large scale. I never really publicly promoted it. I didn't ever really feel good about fully using somebody else's system, because I wasn't even fully using my own intuition in terms of I was in using a pendulum and dowsing to ask questions that help specify information and get, track it down based on the system that I'm trained in, which is a great system. And so I'm not saying anything against it, except what I am saying is I've learned since that if you open the Akashic records on someone, and then because you have accessed the records, you basically are removing the block that previously, like the Christ self has held up to keep you from having to bear the brunt of. It can actually lead people into, you know, health issues or physical issues in their environment, because they're dealing with karma that was being held back by their soul, but because their human ego was curious, they got somebody to go in there and mess with their records, and then more karma drops. So I'm trained in a modality that I don't really use nor promote any longer, is basically what I'm sharing a long story to get to the point of. Francoise, what were you going to add to that?
I would say that the master are telling us during in this book and in many other books to be very, very careful. If you do something from the Akashic record, let's say you are able to go there and do something for somebody else, you are making some karma by imposing something that the person is not, the soul is not ready to hear. And it's only the Holy Christ self, even if the Holy Christ self is holding this for this person, is because he knows the soul is not ready to have this record. So you can create something very that could be a great damage to this soul by doing that, and you are making great karma upon yourself too. So because somewhere each one of us, through our Holy Christ self, we can access to our causal body and through our Akashic record. And it's only through, I would say, the safe presence of the I am presence and the safe, I would say, protection of the Ascended Masters or the archangels, that we can have access to that when it's the time for our soul to have it back. But if somebody is intervening into your life this way, it's a human thing imposed upon another human. So
that creates a contract, like a vow or a curse, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't know exactly, but I know that that's since I'm in the teaching that I'm just reading, that every one of us has a time and a cycle to go to another step, and each one of us has a free will. So if you intervene into the free will of somebody else, then you are not really under the Christ guidance in you to do that.
If you interfere with someone's free will, it is not your higher self that's making the decision to do that. It's your ego.
All the time.
So when
yes,
many sort of in truther communities are talk about trying to wake up another person, this is the same thing. We're imposing based on our ego and not a higher self, and not trying to liberate another person, but we're projecting, thinking that they need to be different, or they need to think.
Well, you know, you can offer somebody something. The person can say yes or no. So like now Laura is offering this reading of the book, Human Aura. Everybody who has received the invitation can say yes, can say no. And that's still, and she's offering an opportunity, that's fine. Every time you have the choice to say yes or no thank you, I'm just withdrawing from that. So you're still free, and that's fine that somebody offered you something. But if you are doing something for someone and forcing and obliging, then you are making it's a karma making, that's for sure. You can offer, and you can, if you must accept what the person or the people say yes or no. That's one of the basic, I would say, this is the first gift we have received from God. It's our free will. And even the masters and the angels are not, cannot go over that. For example, if we don't call the masters or the angels to help us, they cannot intervene because they have not received our call.
Free will. It would be interfering with their free will, and the angels are smart enough and connected with.
They know the law. The law, even God would not intervene into our life if we don't call him for help. Because he has given us this gift.
I heard, and I don't remember the source, and nobody else seems to have heard it before either, but the Lord, L-O-R-D, is the changed version of L-A-W''D for one who understood the universal laws and principles and were able to wield those wisely as the alchemist of this world. So that is the final theory we're going to end tonight on. So thank you for showing up this evening, for contributing. Both of you, sincerely appreciate all of what you have added to the call tonight. We've got Mia Muse over in Australia jumping on, since we're going to use this same meeting room for our meeting here. So I thought I'd bring Mia in so you guys can at least say hello to one of the artists on album 22 who contributed the song Boom. And so welcome, Mia. Good morning.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes, you're
perfect.
So I will leave now because now it's your time with Mia. Okay.
Well, yes, Francoise, thank you. And Pierre as well, no problem. I appreciate your time this evening. Would love to have you join again next week. Francoise did volunteer to actually do the summary, or just kind of Cole's notes, or just kind of touching on the highlights of the chapters, just to kind of make it an even better experience. And so that is kind of something that is organically unfolding, as album 22 did, and all of the other great things in this world. So I look forward to sharing that experience with you next week. Thank you for showing up.
To make it clear, next week is chapter 5 and 6.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You got it. Thanks a lot, Francoise. Have a good one.